topic. So employment and unemployment. So unemployment rises in recessions and falls in expansions. So unemployment reduces incomes of unemployed, and then also they measure unemployment through working age population. So working age population equals number of people aged 15 and older, and labor force is employed plus unemployed. So employed people include those people
Is he
with
cutting out for
full.
you guys too?
Yeah. I'm sorry. It's really hard to hear you because you keep cutting out. Maybe it's poor internet connection.
Sure. So what I'll do is, give me one second.
He's frozen.
Recording in progress.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks. Sorry about that,
Sorry about that,
everyone.
everyone.
So
The only thing is because it's double mic'd. So if you mute the other computer.
yes, thanks for letting me know. Yeah, that's 100% true. Thanks to Alexandra. Thanks, Ash. Thanks everybody for doing that, for letting me know. So let me know if I do cut in or out again. Just let me know. So today we're gonna work on so today we'll work on the monitoring jobs and inflation material and then do some review. So that's gonna be our task for today. So during recessions, the unemployment rises in recessions and falls in expansions. So labor force is calculated by doing employed plus unemployed. So employed are people with full and part-time jobs. So to be employed, you just have to have a full and part-time job. You could be working maybe, like you could maybe want to have a full-time job, but you're stuck with a part-time job right now, and you'll still be considered employed. So anyone who has, and also you might be underemployed, where you could be a doctor and working at McDonald's and you're still considered as employed. So there's flaws to employed measure. And then unemployed is someone without work, actively seeking within the last 4 weeks. So waiting to be called back from layoff or waiting to start a new job within 4 weeks. So unemployed is you need to be actively seeking work or ready to start a new job. The people that not everybody is considered unemployed, like if you're retired, like someone who's retired is not considered unemployed. So unemployed, so retired, students, people who have given up, looking for work. Prisoners, they are not considered unemployed. So like somebody who doesn't do anything and hasn't looked for a job in a year is technically not employed, is technically not considered unemployed. So that's kind of kind of funny. It's kind of ironic that that's the case. So they're considered a discouraged worker. They're considered a discouraged worker. They just give up. They are not considered as unemployed because they gave up looking for work.
Sorry, I had a question with regards to prisoners. A lot of times they will be part of a work system or helping like in production or something like that. Will it still be considered unemployment because they're doing it for the government without a pay?
That's a good question. No one's actually brought that up before. I'll have to do some research on that. That's a good question, Alexandra. So that's a special case. I'll have to do some research on that. But yeah, good question on that.
Sounds
That's a good point.
I doubt it would
So
be because it's kind of like volunteer hours, because it would be under community service work that I assume that you're referring to. So unless volunteers are counted as employed, I don't think they would be.
I don't know, because sometimes I don't know a lot of the system in the system, but I just like sometimes they get to work and
Yeah.
because maybe it's community hours though. Yeah, it's in the air.
yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point on that. If someone wants to research that right now, that's like if you can research that, that would be useful. I'll look it up as well, but if if you want to look that up and determine if they would be considered unemployed still, like if they would be considered discouraged, or if they would be considered employed, that would be great. Like, and then just let me know what your results are. But that's a good point. So the labor force survey, they break it down, population, working age population, labor force, not labor force, so people not in the labor force. Parties, stay-at-home parents, and then prisoners, like asterisk. We need to check if prison work programs would count as being employed. And then, so all these people who are here for work Yeah, so they calculate the amount of people not in the labor force by doing surveys. And then unemployed people need to be actively looking for work or are laid off recently, or they are waiting until the start of their new job. And then, yes, so that's, and then employed people includes full and part-time workers, even people working part-time when they full-time work. Also including people that are underemployed with a lot of education, working in a lot of education / experience, working in jobs are that are usually for people with lower education / that's the flawed that's why employed people flawed measure. So the unemployment rate it's been fluctuating with time. So it went up a lot.
I'm sorry, you keep cutting out. So it goes like from a very, I don't know, maybe just for me, but from a very loud, distinct volume to very low volume, and it's very hard to hear, like very hard to hear.
Okay. Is anyone else having that issue?
Yeah,
I
I'm
think it
hearing it too.
happens. I think it happens when you move a bit away, and then the
Okay.
volume. Yeah, and then the volume goes really down. But when you're close, it's good.
Okay, good to know. I'll stay near the microphone. Thanks for letting me know. So the unemployment rate usually goes up during recessions in this case. So in 1990 to 1991, that area there, that was a recession. So 1990 to 1981, that was a recession. Recession caused caused by increasing interest rates. So that recession was caused by increasing interest rates because inflation was so high back then that they wanted to bring down inflation. So prices in the early 1990s, prices were rising too fast. To bring down prices, they raised interest rates. This caused a recession because it was harder to borrow due to the higher interest rate. So that's what happened in 1990, 1991. In the 1982, there was a recession. So usually the unemployment rate increases due to recessions. So then the labor force participation rate. It's the percentage of working age population in labor force. So it went up a lot until 1990. It decreases during recessions and increases during expansions. And then the employment to population ratio is the percentage of working age population with jobs. So increased from 1960s to 1990, many new jobs created, decreases during recessions, increases during expansions. So the the unemployment rate, it, like I said, it doesn't include people that have not looked for a job within the last 4 weeks. it does include it includes marginally attached workers. So people that are not working or looking for work, but they're available and want to work. Oh, wait, so it doesn't include those. So it wouldn't include the people that have given up for work. So like it wouldn't include marginally attached workers or discouraged workers because they've kind of given up. So the most costly unemployment is long-term. So people who have given up looking for work for more than 14 weeks, that's the most costly form of unemployment. So over time, the labor force participation rate and employment rate, they move similarly. So they move usually very similarly in terms of if there's a higher labor force participation rate, there's usually a higher employment rate. So as the labor force participation rate goes up, the employment rate usually goes up also. And then there's many different measures of unemployment. So there's R1, which is people unemployed 1 year or more. R2, people unemployed for 3 months or less. R3, comparable to the US rate. R4 is Canada's official rates. R3 and R4 are very similar. R5 adds discouraged searchers. R6 adds long-term future starts. And R7 adds involuntary part-timers to R4. R8 adds all three groups added separately in R5, R6, and R7. And then, so looking at R8, it's the best measure of how the economy is doing. So R8 adds everybody together. So looking at R8 here, it's a way better measure than the official unemployment rate because it includes the discouraged workers and involuntary part-timers. So you want to include all of those people because you need to include the people that have given up looking for work and also the people that want more to work more but can't. So that's an important measure that can show how the economy is actually doing compared to what people think. So the unemployment rate could be very low, but they're not factoring in the people that are working part-time and want to work full-time, and they're not factoring in the people who have given up looking for work. So we need to add those in because the problem is the unemployment rate doesn't factor that in. And that's why the unemployment rate is flawed because there's so many things that are not included. And R8 accounts for a lot of those things that are not included. So here, unemployment and full employment. So there's always some unemployment due to friction, structural change, and cycles. So frictional unemployment, it's due to normal labor turnover. So people become unemployed when they were laid off, quit voluntarily, or they may just be looking for a job. So frictional unemployment, a lot of it has to do with, let's say you quit your job right now to get a better job. Or your company lays you off because of, let's say, a contract completion or something like that. So so a lot of it has to do with that. It's like the normal turnover of work. And then structural unemployment is when you lose your job because of technological change. So for example, would be at let's say McDonald's or Walmart, losing your cashier job because of like an automated cashier. So that would be structural unemployment. So technology taking over your job. Cyclical unemployment is due to recessions. So recessions cause cyclical unemployment. And natural employment is only frictional and structural unemployment. So no cyclical unemployment. So you remove cyclical unemployment completely from that. So in that case, so in when the economy is at peak, so peak economy, unemployment, it's natural unemployment. So like there is only frictional and structural unemployment and no cyclical unemployment at the peak. So the natural unemployment is influenced by the population age distribution. So more younger workers means more frictional unemployment. So people leave their jobs to find something better. The rate of the scale of technological change would, so the scale of technological change would, so that would increase the amount of structural unemployment. Level of the real wage rate, the level of unemployment benefits, higher benefits encourage more job search. So higher unemployment benefits, there's more frictional unemployment. So economists agree that there's natural unemployment, but disagree with the size of natural rate and the amount it fluctuates. So the actual unemployment rate fluctuates around the natural rate as real GDP fluctuates around potential GDP over the business cycle. So the output gap is the gap between real GDP and potential GDP. So when the output gap is positive, unemployment rate is less than the natural rate. When the output gap is negative, unemployment rate is greater than the natural rate. So yeah. So that then the natural unemployment rate is trending downward in Canada. This is the output gap versus the unemployment rate. So over time, so the output gap, when the output gap is negative, the unemployment rate goes up. And when the output gap is positive, the unemployment rate goes down. So positive output gap, unemployment rate goes down, negative output gap, unemployment rate goes.
So if we have a positive output gap, that means that there's less of a difference between real and potential GDP? Or more of a gap?
So good question. So with a positive output gap, the real GDP is greater than potential.
Okay, thank you.
And then negative will be real GDP less than potential GDP. So good question. So unemployment rates across Canada, Newfoundland and Labrador, it's the highest in Canada. Prince Edward Island, second highest, New Brunswick, third highest, Nova Scotia, fourth, Alberta, fifth, Quebec, sixth, Ontario, seventh, Saskatchewan, eighth, Manitoba, ninth, British Columbia, 10th. So in 2016. So that's the breakdown across Canada. So the price level, inflation, deflation, changes in the price level, average level of prices, determines the value of future payments, loan savings. So inflation rate is the percentage change in the price level. unpredictable inflation would create winners and losers by creating unpredictable changes in the value of money, redistributing income and wealth. So that would lower real GDP and employment, and it would cause them to focus a lot on predicting inflation. And then hyperinflation is when when money is losing its value very quickly. And that is caused a lot by just printing limitless amounts of money, and then the currency will just devalue. So then the consumer price index measures average prices paid for a fixed basket of consumer goods and services. The CPI will be 100 for the base year, and it's usually constructed from surveying consumer spending habits. So cost of CPI basket at current prices divided by cost of CPI basket at base period prices times 100. That's how you calculate CPI. So inflation is the percentage change in CPI. So CPI would overstate the inflation rate because new goods replace old goods. So they don't factor in the quality improvements in products. Yeah. And then consumers change consumption towards cheaper goods, and that's not reflected in the basket that was used. So that's a big problem because the cheaper goods they switched to were not included in the basket that they used to calculate CPI. And then, yeah, consumers substitute towards discount outlets, and those products in the discount outlet were not in the CPI basket.
What do you
So
mean by a
that
basket?
So for the basket, they calculate the price of a whole bunch of products. It's like the CPI basket equals many products that people use on a daily basis. It's like bread, basic necessities, products that are used regularly. So they use that because, and then they track the prices of those products to figure out how cost of living is changing.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
that's what they do to calculate inflation. Inflation isn't calculated by calculating every product price because there's so many products on the market that they couldn't track all that information. So they have to pick and choose what types of products they track, which causes a lot of problems because there's a lot of products they don't include. And then the measure is very flawed. So they calculated an 8% inflation rate last year in Canada, but the prices of a lot of things went up more than 8%, and those were not included in the basket. So that becomes a problem because they can include certain things and not include other things. So
I'm sorry, I just wanted to ask with regards to items that are not counted in CPI basket. For example, if this items are constantly tracked for inflation and government kind of regulates the prices on these items, it doesn't include the items that are not in CPI basket. So technically a seller can go ahead and put any price tag that it prefers.
Yes, they can, but the problem with that is they could, but consumers have a choice of where they want to buy something, so they could buy from another place that's cheaper.
Mhm.
Right? So, but if they're the only store in town, then the consumer has to pay whatever price that the store asked for.
Mhm.
But if there's competition, then the consumer can choose where to buy based on the price.
Okay, sounds good.
A good question, good question. So this is the CPI basket that they used for 2015. what I'll do is so like we'll go through this one. I'll look up the current one. So it includes alcoholic beverages and tobacco products, health and personal care, clothing and footwear, recreation, education and reading, household operations and furnishing, food, transportation and shelter. So food, transportation and shelter are weighted the most in that because they're necessities, but the rest of it are needed less. So they're needed less, like recreation, education, reading are very important. Also, household operations and furnishings are very important. So those 5 are weighted above 10% because they're needed significantly. Clothing is needed too, but it's not like you need to buy clothing every day. You need to buy most of the other 5 every day. And then health and personal care is important. Alcoholic beverages and tobacco products are not vital to surviving, but they're a big expense. Like they're still a significant expense for people also. So that's all included. What I'll do is I'm gonna bring up the current CPI to see how much it changed. So that's the 2015 one. But I'll bring up the one that they use for Statistics Canada currently. So here. Okay, so they have a graph here. I'm just gonna share it here. So the weights change on a regular basis. Like every month they adjust a bit. So food is still a big part of it. Shelter is the biggest part of the CPI. Household operations is still large. Transportation is still large. So those 4 were the biggest ones in 2015, and they're the biggest ones currently also. And health and personal care, household operations and furnishings, equipment are there, recreation, education and reading, alcoholic beverages, tobacco products, and recreational cannabis. So it really hasn't changed that much compared to before. I think that the percentage paid to shelter has increased, I think, a bit. It's increased. I think the percentage paid to shelter is 30% now, I believe. But like it's went up a few points, but it's pretty similar to what it was before. But does anyone see any issues with this CPI? Do you think some things should be weighted more in terms of calculating fairer inflation rate?
I think health is really low.
Yeah, especially
Yes.
considering the fact that it gets more privatized. So
Yes. Health is pretty low, but Alexandra brought up a good point. As it gets more privatized, it's going to go up in expenses, and also based on this, I think they're factoring in the private spending for health, not the public spending for health. So all government spending is factored out of this. I think it's just private spending, because if it was government spending incorporated in this would probably be like 30-40% of all our spending. So it would probably be, it'd probably be 30-40%. Yeah.
I know food is still one of the really big ones on there, but I think that is what a lot of people use to measure inflation is if food goes up a lot in price, then that's like how the common person can identify that we're in an inflation period. So I don't know if that
Yes.
should be weighted a little bit more probably.
Yes, yeah, a good call, Ashley. So yeah, the food being weighted more would be beneficial because yeah, a lot of people measure that as a big part of affordability. So great job everyone on that. So then back to here. So this is how you would calculate a CPI basket for this example here. So they would, so in this case, the oranges, it would be 10, so you do quantity times price. And for the oranges would be 10 times 1 equals 10. And then haircuts, you would do 5 times 8 equals 40. Then you'd add those up and then you just get 50. Here's 10 plus 40 equals 50. So that's the cost of the CPI basket at base period prices. And then the cost of CPI basket at current period prices in 2018, 10 times 2 equals 20. And then 5 times 10 equals 50. And then you'd add those together and get 70. So then you take these two numbers, the 50 and the 70, and you would have to do the 70 minus 50 divided by 50 to get the inflation rate. That would be 20 divided by 50 equals inflation rate. So the inflation rate would be 0.4, which is 40%. So that'll be a very high inflation rate. We want to have an inflation rate of like the Bank of Canada. The Bank of Canada's target for the inflation rate is 2%. So 40% is way too high. That's how you calculate inflation in that case. And then high inflation versus high prices. So here, with this steep increase in the CPI, that was causing very high inflation. But with this steady increase in the CPI, it's pretty low inflation. So with steep declines in the CPI, with steep increases in the CPI, there is high inflation. And with steady increases in the CPI, there is low inflation. So as you see that those definitely relate to each other there. And then the price level inflation and deflation. We can calculate inflation through using the GDP deflator. So nominal GDP divided by real GDP times 100. Or the chain price index for consumption, nominal consumption divided by real consumption times 100. And it doesn't use fixed quantities. And then core inflation rate excludes volatile elements of CPI. So it shows underlying trends. So it takes out a lot of the other a lot of goods that should be included. And then real variables, nominal variables divided by GDP deflator show what's really happening to key macroeconomic variables. So real variables, they just take out inflation. They adjust for price changes. When they say real, that means that they adjust for any price change. That's the PowerPoint here. So let's get to the next activity.
Sorry, I just had a quick question with regards to this lecture. Will it be included in the test one or not?
So this lecture, it is. So I don't believe it will be in the test. I'm just checking, just making sure there's nothing of that nature in the test. So there isn't, this won't be included in the test.
Okay, sounds good.
So the next thing we'll do, we're gonna watch a video on these concepts. So some more background on inflation. The annual inflation rate is determined by the change in the CPI from year to year. CPI is Consumer Price Index. It shows the change in prices for hundreds of goods in a basket of goods. So if in 2018, the total price of this basket of goods is $40,000, and in 2019, the same basket of these goods and services cost $44,000, the increase in the price levels is 10%. The inflation rate is 10%. So to do that, you would have done 44,000 minus 40,000 divided by 40,000 equals 10%. So that's how you do that. And then using this information here, since 2018 is being used as the base year, the CPI for 2018 would be expressed as 100, and the CPI for 2019 would be expressed as 110. So what would be the inflation rate using the inflation equation here? So does Alexandra want to try this one?
Sure. So we will take the CPI of 2019, which is 110, minus 100, which is 10, and 10 divided by 100 will be 0.1, multiplied by 100 will be 10%.
Excellent. Great job. So that's how you do that one. And then great job, Alexandra. And then the next one, how much inflation occurred in 2018 if the CPI index shows the following price levels? 2017 CPI is 120, 2018 CPI is 130. Does Ashley want to try this one?
Sure, so it's just the same equation, 130 minus 120 is 10 divided by 120 is 0.0833, so
Yes.
8.33%.
Excellent job. Thanks, Ashley. And then the next one, the CPI for 2012 is 114, 2014 is 121. So calculate inflation between 2012 and 2014. Does Hannah want to try this one?
Sure, so it'll be 121 minus the 114 divided by the 114 to give you 0.06, and then times 100 is going to be your 6%.
Excellent. Great job. Thanks, Hannah. So that's great. And then there's another way to do CPI through using the GDP deflator. So in that case, you would, so in this case, you would just use this to find, you'd rearrange GDP deflator equation to find real GDP. So use this equation to find real GDP in this case. And does Juan want to try calculating real GDP for both 2017 and 2018?
It will be 9,001 divided by 1,010 minus 7. Be like 8.42%. 43, yeah, 43.
Excellent, thanks, Juan. So then, Malika, do you want to try doing 2018?
Sure. So it's gonna be the same thing, 1038 divided by 112.7 multiplied by 100,
Yes.
and it will be 92. No, wait. Uh, 921%.
Excellent. Good job, Malika. Thanks for doing that one. And then we'll have to take the 2018 real GDP minus real GDP of 2017. And then divide that by the real GDP for 2017. So does Olivia, Olivia, you want to try that one?
Sure. So you would do the 921 minus the minus the 842 divided by 842, which
Excellent.
is
That's great. And then what would that equal?
9.38.
Excellent. Great work. So that's how you do that, calculating GDP and inflation on that worksheet. So great work, Olivia, on that one. So that was great. So then I think we'll do some work on the types of unemployment that happen. Here. We'll try this. So determine if each of the following would be in the labor force or out of the labor force. So you are 14 years old and in grade 10. You babysit 3 times a week for the family living next door. Does Sophia want to try this one?
I don't think this person would be included.
Yes. Excellent job. And then you are a 26-year-old PhD student in your 3rd year of your program. You specialize in cultural anthropology and you're currently working on the first draft of your thesis. Would they be in the labor force or not? Zachary, you want to try?
I don't think they would be because they're still in school.
Yes. And then great job, Zachary. And then you're a 55-year-old man who has come to hate the cold winters of your home country. So each winter you move south to enjoy the sunshine. Thanks to many years spent working for the government, you have an adequate pension that provides you for your every need. So does somebody want to volunteer to answer this one? Would this be out of the labor force or in the labor force?
I
Out
can volunteer. Oh, okay. Sorry.
Wouldn't it be out because he's retired?
Yes, exactly. Perfect. And then, so you're living in the downtown area of one of the biggest cities in the country. You're the lead singer of a band. Your big dream is to make it big, so you devote almost every waking moment to this goal. To make ends meet, you work as a server in the local restaurant. Would this be in the labor force, out of the labor force?
In labor, because
Yeah.
he works as a server.
Excellent job. And then, so you're a stay-at-home mom with 4 children. You and your husband found it a more affordable option than daycare, and your husband has a stable job as an accountant. So you're content to ensure the smooth running of the household. Are you in the labor force or out of the labor force?
Out of
Out.
the labor force because you're
Yes.
babysitting.
Out of labor.
So out of labor force for that one. And then 6, you are a successful businesswoman in her 40s working PR for the Hampton Hotel, just opening up in Shanghai. You work 50+ hours a week, but you love your job. Would that be in the labor force or out of labor force?
In
In the labor force for sure.
Yes. And then you hold a degree in psychology and have a background in the writing business. In order to make money, you have accepted a job as a retail clerk at IKEA, working on weekends.
In the labor force.
So I think the rest of it is. So I think we could, so everyone, so like the. So that's pretty, like, we're pretty good at that. I think everyone's pretty proficient in that. So I think what we will move on to the next worksheet here. I think everyone's proficient in that concept. So here. So we'll try this worksheet here just to. We're gonna do a worksheet on unemployment. So understanding unemployment. So economists have identified 4 types of unemployment. So seasonal unemployment. Does somebody want to describe what that would be to me?
Seasonal unemployment will be, for example, selling apples from a farm because there's only one certain season in September when apples come out. Something like that, or gatherers of apples.
Yes, Alexandra, that's yeah, that's definitely an example for sure. Thank you. It's like selling apples from a farm. You can only do this in the fall, and you may be unemployed in other months. That's a true example here. So that's to be when you work a certain time in the year and are laid off when the weather is not conducive to work. So what about structural? What's the description of structural unemployment?
it's should I say that?
Sure.
I think it's when someone or people lose their jobs because of changes in technology, kind of, I think.
Yes, exactly.
So like you have in customer service, there's like now the self-checkouts, so less cashiers are, I guess, hired. So that's.
Yes, you got it. great job,
Charlie's
Malika.
brother from the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory being laid off because they hired a robot to produce
Yeah.
at the toothpaste company.
Yes, yes, yeah. So Charlie Bucket's dad from Willy Wonka, from Charlie and Chocolate Factory. Was laid off because they replaced his job with a robot at the toothpaste factory. Yeah, that's a good example, Sophia. And then what about cyclical? How would you explain cyclical?
Unemployment due to current events or political changes.
Due to recession or expansion.
Yes. Exactly. And then what would be an example of cyclical unemployment? Like what would
I
have
like
to
the
happen?
one that was in the video with restaurants. A lot of restaurants went out of business because people, due to pandemic, couldn't go out and eat there.
Yes, exactly. That would be a very current example. Yes, so restaurants laying off staff due to the COVID-19 pandemic recession. So that would be a
if
very
the
current.
restaurant were to have like burned down or something, then they would be unemployed because of a fire.
So that would be, I think that would be under, I think that would be under frictional.
Okay.
I believe, yeah, it'd be under frictional. That's definitely a case that would be, I believe it would be under frictional. That's one that would come up, yeah. So the restaurant burning down, laying off staff. So can somebody explain frictional to me?
It's any of your normal changes in like whether you have a job or not. So like if you get laid off or I guess if you're fired or like in the case of the restaurant being burnt down, there just isn't the job anymore. Like it's taken away.
Like a
from you kind of thing.
trade-off of labor force.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And then you may be searching for a job that meets your experience and education. That would be one also. Yeah, normal changes in whether you have a job or not, layoffs, maybe searching for a job that meets your experience and education. Yeah, good job on that, everyone. And then classify each of the unemployed persons identified in task 1. So do like frictional, seasonal, structural, or cyclical. So what would this one be under here?
Frictional.
Yes, frictional for sure.
Isn't
So that'd
it
be similar. That'd be like
Wouldn't
the
it
burning of the restaurant.
structural? Because right now, the mining are trying to be closed because of new tech. Because
You
we're
say it
switching
again.
slowly. Because we're slowly going from burning coal to getting our electricity from sources like solar energy. Wouldn't it be structural?
That's what
Yeah,
I
it
was
could
kinda
be.
thinking.
It could be structural. This could be structural if the mine is closing due to the shift to a better form of energy.
Okay, so it has
So
to
if that's the motivation, it would be structural. But if it's just closing because mines close so like this could be frictional if the mine closes because there isn't any more tin left. So like it could be either. just depending on, we would need more information. But yeah, like it could be either, depending on the reason, yeah. So you're right, it would be structural if they're changing to different type of energy. So good job on bringing that up. And then a cruise ship worker is let go during the low season. What would that be under?
Seasonal?
Wouldn't it be frictional? Because I thought they're being laid off.
So I think it would be seasonal because they have peaks in certain seasons.
Mm-hmm.
So like,
Okay.
yeah, it'd probably be seasonal, but it could be so seasonal if they are going to be hired back when the busy season happens. And it would be also, and then it would be frictional if they are not hired back on a seasonal basis. So yeah, it depends on like if they're gonna get back there in a better season or if they don't get hired back. But those are good points. And then an accountant who works at McDonald's quits to find a better paying job in their field.
It's frictional?
Yes, good job. It's frictional. And then another worker quits to return to school full time.
Also frictional?
Yes. And then construction workers are laid off due to decrease in the demand for housing during a recession.
In this case, that would be the structural type? Oh,
think
sorry, not the structural, the one where, how is it called? Oh, cyclical.
Yes, they're cool, yeah. And then a newly graduated student is searching for their first full-time job. What would that be called?
Frictional?
Yes. And then due to reduced demand, Petronas cuts back on production and lays off foreign workers.
Frictional as well.
And then restaurants remain open but let go of all their service because they only can provide takeaway service.
That would be cyclical if you compare it to the pandemic.
Yes, exactly. And then a hotel experiences a surge in demand during Chinese New Year. So as an additional 100 workers are hired, afterwards, those same workers are let go.
Seasonal.
Yes. And then VTBHD, a manufacturing company that produces vacuum tubes used in CRT televisions, gives up after 50 years of operations. All 250 employees lose their jobs.
That's cyclical. Wait. No, wait, is that structural?
I think it'd be frictional because they're
Wait.
just
Which one's the one that is due to like technological advancement? I thought
structural.
So I don't know, I thought it'd be like structural. Oh, okay. I thought it'd be structural too, because if they're making these tubes using old TVs, I don't know.
Yeah, I actually agree with you.
'Cause
Yeah,
it's
like
like
it
that whole
means-
market has gone under.
Yeah. Like good point. Yes, it could
I
be
think it has
structural
To be
be
like
structural
about the
if-
replacement.
if
like
they gave up.
replaced- Sorry.
Oh, no. Like you made a good point. You made a good point. I didn't think of it that way. Like great point. So if they gave up,
because now those old TVs are no longer being made because of advancements. So that's why I assumed they'd give up.
oh, that's a
They're-
great point. Yeah, you got it. I think you got it. So the structural because there is probably no demand for CRT televisions. And they had no reason to be in business, maybe.
I just have a question for the structural. I thought it was more so because like the tech, like things were taking over their jobs. So like if something was making the parts for them or
Yeah, that's what I meant. I
Not
thought-
just because the product is advancing.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking the same thing.
So it's both. So those people's jobs they're basically replaced by people that have different skill sets. So these people, they can make CRT televisions. They can make vacuum tubes for CRT televisions, but they're replaced by others that can produce the components for like Roku televisions, right? So, or robots that are doing that work. So it would be structural, yeah. So basically VTBHD, the company, is going to be replaced by another company that may be using robots to produce the components for new TVs. So it could be structural if it's because they need the new TVs need components made by robots or people with high-tech skill sets. So if you are replaced by someone with a more technical skill set, it is structural unemployment. So it doesn't always have to be robots. It could be you're replaced by somebody who has like a more technical skill set, or you could be replaced by someone with a different set of skills.
So if it was like, if we were talking about like restaurants and like somebody made a restaurant near yours and they took all your business away because their food was better, what would that be under?
So that's a good question. That's something that, trying to think of what that would be under.
I think it's frictional because naturally in competition, someone is better than you in something. So customers will prefer the taste of food in the other restaurant and you naturally get out of the business. So it should be frictional.
Because then it
Yeah,
would just make me think. Oh, sorry.
I think it's a good debate to have. I think it's a great debate topic because, yeah, it's a great debate topic. I would agree with Alexandra with that in terms of frictional. I think with the structural argument, it would be like if, MySpace was, I'm just like BlackBerry. So BlackBerry is a great example of this. The technology just fell way behind Apple and Samsung. And then Apple and Samsung had better technical strategy. And then they replaced BlackBerry. And then the people who were laid off at BlackBerry because of this were structurally unemployed because they just couldn't measure up to Apple or Samsung. So that would be structural in that case. Like if it's tech, I think if it's based on skill set, like I think if it was based on pure skill. But the problem with with the restaurant industry, I think it's very subjective, right? Like it's very subjective on the like what's good, what's not. It just is based on your own preference. But I think in terms of if it's like technical skill set, you can rank it more objectively. So I think it would be like that based on structural. But we could probably debate this a lot. It's a good debate to have. But yeah, Zachary brought up a good point too. So I think it would be frictional. What would you say about that, Zachary?
Oh yeah, no, I was just thinking about that, yeah, because if it's technology based, I guess they could like be more skillful people, or it could also just be because people prefer the product sort of thing. So yeah, I guess it really could change between the way you look at it.
Yeah, I think if it was based on preference, I think that would be frictional for sure. But I think if it's just based on technology, it would be structural.
Okay.
So I think that would be the case, but it's a good debate to have for sure.
I mean, I just
So-
like thought structural is the loss of jobs due to advancements in like whatever. But then like a restaurant making better food doesn't necessarily mean they're more advanced. It just means they have better cooks.
For me, I think that food is something that is a final product and it's cooking and it is very talent based. So someone is naturally better in designing dishes. For example, when we talk about manufacturing, we talk about
Yeah.
laid off people because they didn't have that education 50 years ago that our students are getting now. So now students have to get a bachelor degree minimum to get into workforce. But 50 years ago, they just had to have a school diploma. So that means this is a structural unemployment in case if they have better education because they took time off, took those 4 years and got a better understanding
Yeah.
of what the structure is.
So like for the
Yes.
case of TVs, I'm not sure if you would exactly need like a better education just to make a newer TV is the only thing.
It's true. I agree. It's a factor.
Yeah,
in
but
balance.
like,
I
but
think,
isn't
like,
it
in robotics
isn't
maybe?
it because like there was an advancement in the TV, so then all those vacuums, whatever, are no longer needed because of that advancement, which is why it becomes structural.
And you would need new technology to create the new
Yeah,
parts,
to
because
make
that
for the
technology
newer
wouldn't fit
TVs.
the new stuff.
But it's not even in the question. Like the question says that the company just shut down. They decided not to produce these old TVs anymore. They didn't hire new personnel, like more educated or whatever. They just
Yep.
shut down. I think it has to be frictional. I don't know.
Yeah, I know, but they shut down after 50 years. And 50
That's
years
the
with
TV, like
technology is a
how
huge advancement.
majority of people prefer Netflix on the
Yeah.
how's it called, laptop instead. So it kind of took over the TV industry, and now TVs are plasma instead of the CRT or whatever it was.
Yeah. So
So it does include the locking study of how the economy as a whole works. Macroeconomics. The simplified model that shows the flow of money through the economy. Circular flow of income model. The land, labor, capital, and management, entrepreneurship that are used in production. Besides production. All raw materials that are used in the production of goods and services taken from the land. So that'd be all under land. The work done by humans that is used in the production of goods and services. What's that all under? So it'll all be under labor. Then the factor of production that is made by humans and is used to produce goods and services, it occurs as a result of investment. Capital. The factor of production that brings together the other three factors of production with the aim of making profit. Entrepreneurship tends to involve risk taking. Management entrepreneurship. Then the saving taxes and import spending that removes spending from the circular flow of income. Will be leakages. In the investment, government spending, and export revenues that add spending to the circular flow of income. That'd be injections. And the total money value of all final goods and services produced in an economy in a given year, usually a year. Total money value of all goods and services produced in an economy in 1 year, plus net property income from abroad, interest, rent, dividends, and profit. So that would be GMP / GNI. The total money value of all final goods and services produced in the economy in 1 year per head of population. GDP per capita. Then the measure of the total output of an economy having taken into account the environmental consequences, externalities involved in the production of that output. That's green GDP. The diagram showing the periodic / cyclical fluctuations in economic activity. The business cycle shows that economies typically move through a pattern of economic growth with the phases recovery, boom, slowdown, recession. So it'd be business / economic cycle. Then total spending in the economy made up of consumption, investment, government spending, and net export spending. So that's aggregate demand. And spending by households on consumer goods and services. Consumption, good job, everyone. And spending by firms on capital goods, the addition of capital stock to an economy. That'd be investment. And spending by governments on goods and services. That's government spending. And then export revenues minus import expenditure. So that'd be net exports. The total amount of domestic goods and services supplied by businesses and the government, including both consumer goods and capital goods. So that'd be aggregate supply. Model showing the interpretation of the Keynesian view of aggregate supply in the economy. So that's Keynesian AS model. And a model showing that the long run aggregate supply curve is vertical at the full employment level of output. So that'd be classical AS model. And the level of output that is produced by the economy when there is only natural unemployment. So that'd be full employment level output. And the gap that occurs when macroeconomic equilibrium occurs at a level that is less than the full employment level of output. So that'd be deflationary recessionary gap. And the gap that occurs when macroeconomic equilibrium occurs at a level that is above the full employment level of output. So inflationary gap. Great work, Ashley, Zachary, Olivia, great work, the whole class. Great work, Alexandra, Hannah, Juan, Malika, Sophia, Zachary. Great work, everyone, on this one. So great job on that one, everyone. So I'm just gonna work on this worksheet here. Just more practice on inflation. So inflation is good when it's low. When it's at 1 to 5%, it's good. But when it's too high, things become way too unaffordable. And that's not good for our economy. So we're gonna calculate inflation for this country here. So we have to calculate this here. So the 40% weight times 10% price changes, and then how much would that contribute to the inflation rate? So how about so Alexandra, do you want to try calculating the contribution of food to the inflation rate?
Sure. So we will multiply 40 at the price change, which is 10, which will be 400 divided by 100 will be 4.
Yes, good job. Thanks, Alexandra. And then does Ashley want to try the housing one?
Sorry, I thought I unmuted myself. It'll be 1.25%.
Yes, exactly. Excellent. Thanks, Ashley. And then for transportation, does Hannah want to try transportation?
Sure, so it'll be the 20% times the 8%
Yes.
divided by 100, so that'll be 1.6%.
Excellent. Thank you for doing that. And then Juan, do you want to try doing consumer goods?
It'll be 15% divided by 2%. It'll be 7.5. Oh, 0.3%. 2%. 0.3%. Yep.
Thanks, Juan. And then Malika, do you want to add all those up to get the total?
It's gonna be the all percentages. Oh wait, do we? And that'll be 7.15.
So 5.25, 6.85. Did you say 7.15?
Yes.
Excellent. Good job. Great job, Malika. Great job, everyone, for doing the weights. So that's how you do it. Just weighting each section here, each category. You can do it like that. You can calculate CPI like that, or so that's how you calculate the contribution to the inflation rate for that. So then CPI is always expressed in relation to base year, and the price levels, the CPI in the base year is 100. So if the base year is 2018 and there was 10% inflation in 2019, the CPI index would be 100 in 2018, and in 2019 would be 110. So for Cambodia, what's the CPI index for 2020 if 2020 is the base year? Does Olivia want to try this one?
I don't really understand what it's asking.
Okay, so it would be 100 because 2020 is the base year. So the CPI in the base year is 100. So that would be 100 there. And then the 2021, what would be the CPI in 2021? Sophia, do you want to try?
110. Sorry, do I have to
so-
add the inflation rate of 10% or 7.15?
7.15. Yeah.
Oh, so that would be 107.15.
Yes, exactly. So you just add the inflation rate here. Yeah, good job, Sophia. So then that's how you do that one. And then we have to use this formula to find real GDP in this case. So Zachary, what's the real GDP for year one?
So it's 1 million divided by 100 times 100.
Yes,
So just 1 million.
yes, good job. That was Zachary. Thanks for doing that, Zachary. And then Alexandra, do you want to try the next one?
Sure. So for year two, we will have to take 1.2 divided by 108 and then multiply by 100. I will put it
Yes.
in the calculator. Sorry.
No problem.
it will be 1, 2, 3, and 1.1 million.
Excellent. Thank you, Alexandra. And then Ashley, do you want to try doing year 3?
Yep, so are we still using year 1 as the base, or now are we using year 2 as the base?
So year 1 still.
Okay, so 1.5 divided by 115 times 100 is 1.30 million.
Excellent. Great job, Ashley. Thank you for doing that one. And then Hannah, do you want to try doing 4?
Sure, so it'd be the 2 million divided by 100, the 125, and
Yes.
that'd be times 100 again, to give us 1.6 million.
Excellent. Thank you, Hannah. That was great. And then 1, do you want to try doing year 5?
Yeah, so it'll be 2.5 million. Divided by 140
Yes.
times 100. So
Yes.
it'll be 1,785,000.
Thanks, Juan. Great job, everyone. So we got all our numbers we need for calculating the CPI now. So we can, we could have just calculated prior. But so for year 3, what would be the inflation rate for year 3? So you would take so in this case, you would take the difference between these years. So does Malika want to try doing the inflation rate for year 3?
So would you subtract the 1.3 million minus 1.1 million?
So close. So you would take the CPI year 3 minus CPI.
Oh, oops, I'm looking at the real GDP.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. No, it's okay. It's
Okay, so you
totally
just
okay.
do 115 minus 108, which is 115, and then divide by 115, and then multiplied by 100.
Close. You would
6
divide by 108.
Oh. Oops.
Good job. Good job. Honest mistake.
8 divided by, it would be 6.48.
Excellent. Great job, Malika. Thank you for doing that one. And then Olivia, do you want to try doing year 5?
So you would do 140 minus 125 divided
Yes.
by 125 times 100, which is 12.
Excellent. Excellent. Great job, Olivia. That was excellent. And then year 2 to year 4. So we'd have to take year 4 minus year 2. So does Sophia want to try that one?
Yeah, it would be 125 minus 108
Yes.
divided by 108. Let me put in my calculator.
Excellent.
It would be 15.7%.
Excellent. Thank you, Sophia. Great work, everyone. That was great. So that's how you calculate inflation. So that's how you do that. So now let's go, so I posted some review for the test. So I put a review section in Fanshawe Online. So the review section, I posted practice exams here. So there's some practice there for you to go through in preparation for the test one. So then the test one, so it's going to cover so it will have true and false questions, multiple choice questions, and this is good practice for the test. And yeah, good practice for the test here. Practice questions, similar questions that you will see on the test. So this is a good practice for it, and that can be found under quizzes. So you go to, it can be found on tests. So the test one study guide is right here. So it can be found under the test one study guide and tests. So that's a good way to review for test one. And test one will be during class next week. So I'll give you an hour to do it during the class. And yeah. So
I was wondering about the test. Will it be open or a closed book?
open book, yeah.
So, okay, sounds good.
Yes.
I
So you can sorry.
Sorry, am I good to ask? Sorry, it just.
Yes, yes.
I also had one question about the study guide that you just showed. I think I found a mistake in one of the questions. Is it possible?
Yeah, I know there's mistakes in, I have to update the study guide. What's the, yeah, there are like, which question is the mistake you saw?
Just a sec, I marked it. It's question 42.
Sure. 42?
Yeah, the explanation to question 42 is wrong because it say could not cause an increase.
Yeah, I think, yeah, the explanation, I agree. The explanation it's not a good explanation here. Yes, so
Sounds good. I just wanted to clarify so I understand the topic and the question itself. So I'm prepared.
yeah, you brought up a good point that, yeah, you brought up a good point that is, yeah, that's definitely an incorrect question. So good, thanks for bringing that up, Alexandra. So I'll repost this, I'll update it for everyone. And then I'll repost it, but yeah, thanks for identifying that. Does anyone have any other questions for today?
I have a question about a source for the assignment.
Okay,
I'm doing my assignment on the housing market and I found a lot of statistics and some graphs and like recent trends on WOWA. And I just want to make sure that that was credible. Because like I have
Okay.
Bank of Canada and I have RBC, but then this one has a lot of different stats and it breaks down the Canadian market versus all of the provinces. So I want to use it, but want to make sure you're okay with it first.
okay, yeah, good question. So share my screen here. Is it this website? Okay. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
Okay.
Yeah,
Perfect, thank you.
yeah, no problem. So any other questions, anyone? Okay, great work today, everyone. So email me, if anyone has any questions, feel free to email me. Yeah, like any questions you have about the test, just email me at mjohnson@manchester.ca. And yeah, I check that email regularly, so just email me and I'll get back to you. But great work today, everyone, and just email me any questions you have, and then yeah, and then let me know if you need any assistance for the more work for the test. And yeah, great work today, everyone. And also any questions about the quiz, assignments, etc., let me know. But great work today, everyone, and have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
You too.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.